Good morning, Jeffrey.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Good. A little nervous.
Don't be nervous.
I know.
I know it's a little disconcerting giving a webinar, talking to people who you can't see, but they can see you. And that's how it'll work. It works as like a broadcast. So they will hear and see you, but you won't hear and see them. They can ask questions. There is a chat box. And those questions should come up. That's actually a question and answer box. And if they have questions, I'll give instructions at the beginning about that. And can you see the slide that I put up?
Yes.
Okay. And then when you want the next slide, just tell me and I'll go to the next slide.
Okay.
That would be number 2, number 3, 4, and 5.
Okay. And when they're looking at the slide, I'm in a box off to the right or off in the corner?
Correct.
Okay.
And if you don't want, do you want the slide up there the whole time while you're talking, or?
I'll let you know when to put them up.
Okay.
It's fine to leave them up. It's
Okay.
fine to bring them back down. It just, I haven't noted where I want them taken down as much as I want them up.
That's fine. That's no problem. So we can do that, and I think let's see everything.
And you can hear me fine.
Yeah, I can hear and see you fine, and the webinar lasts not more than an hour, so you can talk as long as you want. Most people go for like 50 minutes and then leave some time for question and answers at the end. If people have questions and answers during the webinar, they can put them up, and if you see them pop up and you want to answer them then, that's fine. If not, we can just hold off till the end. So
Okay.
either way, whatever feels right. So I was just trying to look. I think I will introduce you. Let's see. So it's 11:36. Well, everything seems to be working. So if you want to take a break or whatever and come back just a few minutes before the top of the hour,
Okay.
then we should be all set. If you want to move your camera down a little bit, your head is kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Well, depends how you sit. Okay, now that's good.
Yeah, I was leaning forward like that, so I'm probably going to be more like this.
Okay.
This way.
And
Let me pull the camera this way a little bit. Yep, I have a home office. So you do see the stairs behind me. It's not much I can do about that.
It's okay.
Yeah, when I push that, that's
okay. Good. So when we come back and it's time to broadcast, I will hit the broadcast button, I'll record, and then I'll introduce you, and then I'll turn it over to you, and you'll start.
Okay, great. All right.
We'll be all set.
I've timed it out, and I think I'm at about 45 minutes, so I may not go for the full. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just kind of looked and said, do I want to add more material? And I went, I think it's good, but then people may have questions, so.
Right.
Or I may go slower than I thought I would. Who knows? All right.
Anyway, that's fine. So back to the beginning. Did I send you a W-9 to fill out, or
you did, and I will get that.
Okay.
I will get that.
Okay, send that back to me, and then we can.
You guys probably need that for the Mussar in Action distance course that I'm leading as well.
Probably.
Yeah.
If we're paying you a commission, a fee on that, yes, you have to remind me that we owe you for that then.
Okay.
So remind me of that.
Okay, good. It's not complete till July anyway.
Okay.
Yeah,
So so we'll need it for that too. So just remind me, please.
I will. I will.
Okay.
And should I just send it directly back to you?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll see you in like 20 minutes or so, and we'll be all set.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye. You can just leave everything running. Hello.
Good morning.
Hello again. Um, where are you located again? What city in California are you in?
Westlake Village, Southern California.
Right. So right here, yeah. Familiar with the area.
Are you?
Well, I visited the Jackmans once and stayed at their house.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I may have stayed with them twice. I can't remember.
Yeah.
So I know the shopping center and driven all around there.
Yes.
Uh,
Good. Are you, I think Ellen's coming back out for Michelle Princenthal, so there's
yeah, sometime this month, I believe.
yes, next Sunday.
Oh, next Sunday already.
Yeah,
Wow.
a week from today.
Time flies. It's hard to believe it's already, the middle of, well, not the middle of June, the first week of June, but still, it's hard to believe.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. I have a glare. Yeah, I think that helped.
okay, so what time? We have a few minutes, so it's no problem. Well, it's a rainy day here in Florida. For us, the summer is our rainy season as opposed to the opposite of what you guys have.
Well, the rainy season is a fleeting term here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. You guys still have a pretty bad drought.
We did get enough rain this year to alleviate most of that, but I wouldn't say we're out of the woods. I think
Yeah.
it lifted all the drastic drought measures.
Uh-huh.
Nevertheless, it's always a concern. We're a desert out here. We don't really treat it like a desert.
Yeah. It's hard to remember it's a desert when you look at all the building and development and everything, right?
Yeah, and you probably traveled through the San Fernando Valley. I'm always in awe of being up on that 101 freeway and driving 405 and driving through and realizing how many trees are in the San Fernando Valley. It's amazing.
Yeah. Last time I was out there, I got to go to the Getty Museum because I'd never been there.
Mm-hmm.
And I also went to the LA County art museums. That was really nice. That was very nice, actually.
Beautiful.
Enjoyed that. So, let's just see.
How many people are we expecting on the?
Well, I think we had about 120 register, but there usually are not nearly that many who actually come on live because we send out a link to the recording and we put it on our YouTube channel. So, excuse me. So, so a lot of people will watch it later on, and that's fine. So, but I think we had about 120 sign up, which is great. Let's see. Okay, hold on just 1 second. We'll be ready. I'll go live in about 2 or 3 minutes, and you leaving?
Are you on a long call?
Yeah, it's a webinar.
Interrupting?
No, not yet. We haven't started yet.
Okay, yeah, well, I guess I'm leaving then.
Does she know I'm not coming?
Yeah, the last time. How will you repay me for these things that I do for you?
I don't know.
Alright, I guess I'll go now.
But you're coming home before dinner.
Oh yeah, I'm not staying. I told her that I can't drive at night. I can't, it's not even a lie. I can't drive at night.
Have you heard from Alana at all?
No, and she really You need to confront her when she gets home,
Okay.
okay? She just explain out why.
Okay. Have fun. We're dealing with sale of my mother's house. My father passed away in August, and we've been dealing with. She's finally selling her house, and it's not that close. It's like an hour away. So on the weekends we have to run up there and do things. So since I'm busy today, my wife is running up there. She's a real estate lawyer, and she's handling the whole thing, and she's also a real estate agent, so she listed the property. So
Yeah.
and we hired somebody to do a lot of the work, to like do an estate sale and pack things up, but it's a lot, and my mother is very anxious about the whole thing. So
Yeah.
she's moving to a very nice independent living facility.
Yeah.
It's really, really lovely. So but it's a big change. It's a big deal. So okay, let me get up the slides. Yeah, too many windows open here. Let's see. Okay. All right. Slideshow from the beginning now.
And you don't have to put up slide 1 initially. You could just leave that down there now.
Okay. So I won't share my
Sure.
screen yet. I just saw somebody walk by behind you. Give.
That is my husband. Hopefully he'll be catching the phone and we'll be.
You have kids at home too, or?
We don't. But we have my dog Lily, who's right next to me. Yeah, kids are grown.
Oh wow, we're already recording. I think I set it to automatically record, so.
I think it has been recording, yeah.
So we can cut out all this. I'll see if we can cut out all this banter back and forth before he posts it. Okay, so let me go live now, since it is 12 o'clock Eastern. So good morning, everybody. I'm going to wait just a minute because I know it takes a few moments for people to start getting added to the webinar. I see we have a few people on so far. And hopefully everybody, hopefully people can hear me and also see me and also see Rabbi Lisa Bock. Let's see, we have a lot of familiar names on here, the Jackmans, Sammy from Miami, from Florida, Monique, Ken Bach, Greg Marcus, the Weinbergers, the Franks. So we have quite a few people. I'm just going to wait just a minute because everybody gets added in individually. We are recording right now, and I'll give everybody instructions. Most of you have been on these webinars before and know how it works. Greg says he can see and hear me, but not Rabbi Lisa. I'm going to turn my video off, and hopefully that will, because she is on there. I'm going to stop my video, and hopefully you can see if somebody wants to put a message in the chat that they can see her. You might have to go to full. You can double click on the upper right hand side of the Zoom panel, and it'll take you from speaker view to gallery view, and you should be able to see her now. They still don't see Rabbi Lisa. Let's see. For some reason, people aren't seeing you, Lisa.
Hi, can you see me, Jeffrey?
I see you.
I can stop my video and start it again.
Yeah, why don't you stop it and start it again?
Okay. Okay.
Ken Bock says that he sees you. Yeah, when she starts to talk again, you'll be able to see her because I'm talking now. I probably pop up. So I see there's one question and answer from Dan. I can see you, hear you, not Rabbi Lisa yet. Hopefully, when she starts speaking, she will pop up. So let me just do the introductions then. And if people are still having trouble, send me a message in the chat room. But you shouldn't. And like I said, if you go to the top of your panel, above where you see my head, there's different views. You can go to full screen or you can go to gallery view. It might help if you go to gallery view. And we will be putting up some slides along the way. So anyway, so welcome to what is, believe it or not, the last chapter in our series of webinars for this year. These are free webinars offered to the community by the Mussar Institute. It's being recorded. It will be posted on our YouTube page. We've had a wonderful series, and thanks to Elizabeth Eastman and Avi Fertig for helping to put this series together and being the producers of this series. And most of you have been on these webinars before, but there is a question and answer box at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you can ask questions there. The rabbi will answer them either in real time during or save them towards the end. We will leave time at the end for questions and answers as well. So do, please feel free to ask any questions along the way. And I would just also like to remind people that even though it's early in the summer, not quite summer, we have the Mussar Kala, which will be coming up the very end of November, beginning of December. Registration will be opening soon for that. That's a Capital Retreats north of the Baltimore, Washington area. And please consider coming to that. I know many of you who are on are people who come to the Kala. So don't forget that. So let me introduce our speaker today. Lisa Bock was ordained as a rabbi at the Academy of Jewish Religion in California. She is a gifted teacher and skillful discussion facilitator. She teaches core courses including ethics and the graduate courses including mysticism for the Florence Melton School of Adult Jewish Learning. She also develops curriculum and teaches independent study groups on a variety of Jewish topics, and is a facilitator for the Mussar Institute for the distant course Mussar in Action and Path of the Soul. And today's topic, of course, is on Chapter 6 of Pirkei Avot. And without further ado, I will introduce Rabbi Lisa. So go ahead, and I will turn myself off, and hopefully everybody will see you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. I really appreciate all the care and time that you've had setting up this morning, and I thank you everyone for being on this morning. So today we're going to begin Chapter 6 of Pirkei Avot, and as I begin this, I want to acknowledge all of those who have taught chapters 1 through 5 before me, and such a wonderful series that we have had. So as we begin with Chapter 6 of Pirkei Avot, this is called Kinyan Torah. This is the acquisition of Torah, and it's also known as the chapter of Rabbi Meir, and this is after the first author that is quoted in its first Mishnah. So Kinyan Torah, where do we find this? Well, we actually find this in traditional prayer books, and it is, of course, the 6th chapter of the section entitled Pirkei Avot. But this additional chapter, Kinyan Torah, is not actually part of the original tractate Avot in the Mishnah, but is actually a later compilation. So this additional chapter is likely to have been added hundreds of years after the original 5 chapters of Pirkei Avot. And this was done in order to have a reading of a chapter on each of the 6 Shabbatot between Passover and Shavuot, as this was the custom in ancient Babylon. And many today study Pirkei Avot in this way, or they study from Pesach until Passover until the Shabbat before Rosh Hashanah. And so as one of the commentaries, Midrash Shmuel, and this is put together by Rabbi Shmuel de Uzeda of the 16th century Sfat. The reason why many communities have a custom to study Pirkei Avot during the 7 weeks between Pesach and Shavuot is because Shavuot commemorates the Jewish people's acceptance of the Torah, and because the Torah can only reside in a pure environment, and and so therefore it's necessary for every Jew to purify their soul by correcting those character traits which deviate from the path of the Torah. Well, I love this. I love this idea that during these 7 weeks between Pesach and Shavuot, that we do this, and it's a beautiful tradition that we have. But I love this idea that the Torah can reside only in a pure environment. And so what is it that we do? Well, we then take and purify our own heart, and so that we can bring and have Torah reside in our environment, in our pure environment, and that is in us, in our soul. And just wanted to check in, and wanted to just check. Let's see. The sound is not too good. Let me see. I just saw some note that comes up. We had tested the sound earlier.
There seems to be a bit of an echo. I don't know if your speakers are on. That if you turn your volume down on your speakers, that might help.
Okay, I can try that. Is that any better? Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Any better now?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. I appreciate the feedback. Okay. So, okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So I love this idea, just to move on from this idea that this time between Passover and Shavuot, that the Torah resides in a pure environment. And so we take this time in these weeks to actually have purify our soul, in that we take this time to study Pirkei Avot, to correct those, or begin and focus our attention on correcting those character traits which deviate from the path of the Torah, and so that we can bring Torah into our being, into our soul, and study Pirkei Avot as the pathway to doing that and correcting those character traits. Of course, we know that many study Pirkei Avot, all of these chapters between Pesach and the Shabbatot before, or the Shabbat before Rosh Hashanah. So at this point, I think if everybody can hear me well, wonderful, thank you. What I'd like to do now is, Jeffrey, if you want to bring up slide 1, we'll begin with, actually what is going to show up here is our first, there we go, great, okay. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. This is the beginning of our chapter 6 of Pirkei Avot. And this chapter 6 actually begins with an introduction. And the Shanu Chachamim, the sages taught Bilshon HaMishnah, and the sages taught in the style of the Mishnah. So this is how chapter 6 of Pirkei Avot actually begins, and then what are they saying here? Well, it's taught in the style of the Mishnah because the chapter 6 actually consists of baritot. It's statements of the sages of the time of the Mishnah, but was actually not included in the Mishnah. And so this introduction teaches us that this chapter is nevertheless, it's in the language of the Mishnah. And then as we look at the next part, blessed is the one who chose them and their Mishnah. Baruch shebachar bahem u'mishnatam. So what we have here is this second part of this introduction that says, you know what, God's chosen these sages and their teachings, and so this, in essence, validates this chapter, this compilation, this whole chapter 6 of Pirkei Avot as an integral part of all of Pirkei Avot, and Pirkei Avot is, of course, in the Mishnah, in the Oral Torah. So one thing that's also on this page here is this lovely quote here that is from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, out of Great Britain. He is a modern writer, rabbi, just love his writing. And in his commentary in this Koran Siddur, he describes which Pirkei Avot is in the Koran Siddur, because it is a part of traditional prayer books. And he has this comment on chapter 6, as chapter 6 here is a hymn of praise to the life of Torah and the virtues it requires. And I just love this. It's a hymn of praise to the life of Torah and the virtues it requires. So it is, I just love this introduction. And he speaks of Pirkei Avot in its entirety by saying, no finer account exists of the way of life epitomized by the sages, which was quiet, scholarly, profoundly driven by a sense of justice and integrity, skeptical of politics and politicians, and dedicated to the life of the mind and to the spiritual drama of study as the highest connection between the mind of man and the will of God. So this is from the Koran Siddur as an introduction, not only to all of Pirkei Avot, but to our chapter 6 here that we're going to take a look at today. And so, excuse me. So we're going to do this morning, actually it's morning in California, so I realize it's afternoon for many of you. What we're going to do today is take a look at slide 2. Jeffrey, if you could bring up slide 2, that would be wonderful. We're going to take a look at, of course, chapter 6, Mishnah 1. And Mishnah 1 has quite a bit to it, and what I'd like to do is go through many of these, well, actually each of these lines in this first Mishnah and discuss them and take a look at them. And then I'm going to pull some of the ideas that I see that really resonated with me as I was looking at this introduction, and then pull them all together and bring some of what I see that touches my heart at this point in my journey in terms of Mussar that I see in this particular Mishnah, this Mishnah 1 of chapter 6 of Pirkei Avot. So here we begin, and of course it begins with Rabbi Meir Omer. Rabbi Meir would say, one who engages in the study of Torah for its own sake becomes worthy of many things. Moreover, such a person is deserving of the whole world. Yeah, I think it's probably a good time to point out that I have included, really for you just the English translation, and I've drawn mainly from the Kehati series of the Mishnah, Pirkei Avot, and adjusted it using egalitarian language whenever and practically possible. So that is what I've brought to you this morning. I've messed with it a little bit where I thought it was necessary. And so here we have one who engages in the study of Torah for its own sake becomes worthy of many things. Moreover, such a person is deserving of the whole world. So what I see here is that the sages are saying that a person who studies Torah in this way sees Torah as a path, an instruction for human beings to fulfill their purpose. And such a person who sees Torah as the path of actualizing the purpose of human beings actually justifies the act of creation. So this is just beautiful. And Bock, in his book, As a Tree by the Waters, commentary on Pirkei Avot, he explains his understanding of this to say that this world is the means through which human beings exist and through which human beings can strive to connect with the divine. And those who strive in this way justify the creation of the world. Hence, such a person is deserving of the whole world. Beautiful. So this really is taking this idea of Torah study for its own sake, that yes, they become worthy of many things, but really that seeing Torah being studied in this, taking Torah and seeing this as the path to actually fulfilling our purpose as human beings, that this actually justifies all of creation. Ah, beautiful. Okay, so just bringing a little light to each of these verses here, taking a look at the next one. One who engages in the study of Torah is called friend, beloved, lover of God's creatures, a joy to God, and a joy to God's creatures. So here I see this as one who truly engages in the study of Torah, engages in the betterment of self and the betterment of the world. And that such a person is beloved by those around him or her, and really love and joy have this possibility to just permeate their whole life. So I love that. So it's one of the benefits. Okay. Another next line here is that they are clothed in humility and awe, anava v'yirah. And Torah trains them to be righteous, pious, upright, and faithful. It keeps them far from sin and draws them near to virtue. Okay, so here I see that study of Torah leads one to realize that what one gains is truly a gift from the divine rather than something that they've gained on their own. When we look at life in this way and our accomplishments in this way, we can see that what we achieve is not truly our own. Yes, we put in effort, all of that, but what we've achieved and even our abilities are really bestowed upon us by the divine, and that we may actually be grateful for them. And this gratitude is accompanied by humility and awe in the divine. And this realization and gratitude may actually be a result of one's humility and awe, and the awareness of the actual gift of life, and also the capacity for study that is granted by the divine. So just bringing more light to each of these verses. People benefit from their good counsel. This is our next line in Pirkei Avot, Mishnah 1. People benefit from their good counsel, sound knowledge, understanding, and fortitude. As it is written in Proverbs, counsel is mine and sound knowledge. I am understanding, strength is mine. So the good counsel, sound knowledge, understanding, and fortitude of one who studies Torah derives this, of course, from their studies of Torah. And so these benefits come from Hashem because all this is transmitted through the words of Torah. So one who studies Torah then may grant others good counsel, sound knowledge, and understanding. And so we can see this as this all comes from the divine through the words of Hashem, and through studying these, it comes from Hashem and through to us through Torah, and through those who study Torah to those around them, because they transmit all of this goodness and all of this Torah, and they may grant others good counsel, sound knowledge, and understanding. And I also wanted to touch on fortitude here. I think fortitude is such a great word. Fortitude is really this mental strength and courage. It's the strength to put into practice that which one has learned. So as we all know, we can learn, all kinds of things, but when we put it into practice, that's when it makes the biggest difference, is really putting this into practice, and that is this fortitude. And with fortitude, well, one walks the walk, and others may actually benefit not only with their good counsel and sound knowledge and understanding and all of that, but actually be inspired by them walking the walk and benefit from their experience of walking the walk, and them actually striving, be inspired by them. Okay, so take a look at the next line here. It's Torah gives them sovereignty, authority, and keen judgment. When I first took a look at this, I kind of went, sovereignty, authority. I can kind of wrap my head around the keen judgment. I like that. But, we might ask, sovereignty, authority, it kind of sounds like, being all that, or, ruling over, that kind of a thing. And I took a look at the commentary in Sfat Emet, and Sfat Emet actually asked this very same question: why would the sages be touting sovereignty? And Sfat Emet gives us some insight here and suggests that malchut here, sovereignty, may actually refer to freedom from all constraints, and all constraints, both physical and spiritual, that so often restrict our growth. And Sfat Emet continues and says that just as a sovereign does not fear their subjects, so too the Talmid Chacham is beyond fearing others. And I love this idea that just as a sovereign doesn't fear their subjects, so too the wise student, the one who studies Torah, is beyond fearing others. And I see this as really having this, looking in what Sfat Emet is conveying, I see this as really having this freedom to really be unconstrained from thoughts and worries and fears and so forth, and these things that can often restrict our growth, and I think also really restrict who we really truly are and are striving to be. So the idea of authority, so just moving on from that, from the idea of sovereignty, the idea of authority may actually be illuminated by the Talmud in Brachot 6b, whoever has fear of heaven, their words are heard. And so this keen judgment, discerning judgment, this has a notion of listening and clarifying what's actually happening, so as to be able to unravel the different pieces of information that's required to render a sound decision in a case brought before them. So I see a lovely comment that came up a moment ago by Greg. Thank you, Greg. Greg sees this as sovereignty over the Yetzer Hara. And absolutely, if it were not for my Yetzer Hara, why would my worries and fears not be screaming? So beautiful connection there. Thank you very much. Absolutely. Yetzer Hara driving me off my path from actually serving God to actually being worried and distracted here and there. So beautiful. Thank you. Next line here is the secrets of Torah are revealed to them, and they become an ever-flowing fountain, a stream that never fails. They become modest and forbearing, forgiving of insults. It, Torah, magnifies and elevates them above all things. Looking at the Kahati commentary here, the Kahati commentary notes that the translation here, by the way, forbearing, which is patience, to hold back, forbearing, it's here in the words erech ruach, like long spirit, that this is distinct from erech apayim, which is long suffering, which denotes a containment of anger, at least for a time, whereas erech ruach, forbearing or patience, has the sense of actually transcending anger. So the phrase here magnifies and elevates them above all things. Av kol hama'asim. This is often interpreted to refer to the ma'aseh hamitzvot, the performance of the mitzvot, the divine precepts. So one way to put this together, one way to look at this or understand this may be that the person who studies Torah for its own sake attains such character refinement that they go way above and beyond the mitzvot, and by doing so are such wonderful exemplars of Torah that they transcend the mitzvot. And the sages actually seem to like anthropomorphize the mitzvot as the mitzvot actually glorying in such a person. And I remember one of my teachers saying in rabbinic school, Rabbi Mel Gottlieb, teaching us that the Torah was given to us to make us a mensch. And if we are studying and living a life of Torah, we are each refining our character so as to be a mensch. So we see here that when one goes above and beyond the mitzvot glory in such a person. And so the Torah here is really this idea of the Torah magnifies and elevates such a person beyond all things. And I love that idea of the mitzvot actually glorying in such a person who really goes above and beyond all of the mitzvot. Such a beautiful image. Okay. So now I'm going to pull together some of the strands of what occurred to me as a theme here. And I briefly there's so much in just this first Mishnah that we could really talk for hours and hours on it. But I wanted to connect for you what really occurred to me as I was studying this with this lens of Mussar, taking a look at this chapter 6 and really at this first Mishnah. So I wanted to pull together a few strands of what I believe to be a theme here. And I briefly commented on a number of things, but I'm going to pull forward just a few themes here. First is this idea of malchut, of sovereignty, and also of erech ruach, this forbearance or patience, and also they denote a certain coolness in there, forbearance, patience, coolness, and also the al kol hama'asim, the magnified and exalted above all things. So just to review where we've kind of been, on malchut, Sfat Emet talks about freedom from constraints that restrict growth. And erech ruach denotes a calmness, this idea of transcending anger. It's also translated as forbearance, the quality of someone who is patient and able to deal with a difficult person or situation without becoming angry. And magnified and exalted be above all things, al kol hama'asim. This is defined so far as one becoming a mensch through study and living a life of Torah, and then going above and beyond the mitzvot. So for me, I think that these three point to and are elements of a particular midah. And so before I bring forward that midah, what I would like to do is bring a very often related story that I think is just so charming, and it's a story from the Talmud. And I think that this will bring together all three of these points and lead us to the middot that I'm going to discuss a little bit further. And in the Talmud in Shabbat 31a, our rabbis taught that a person should always be gentle like Hillel and not impatient like Shammai. And so they tell a story about Hillel. And here's the story. It once happened that two men made a wager with each other, saying, "The one who goes and makes Hillel angry shall receive 400 zuz, coins and monetary amount." So said one, "I will go and make Hillel angry." And that day was the eve of Shabbat, and Hillel was washing his head. The one man went and passed by the door of Hillel's house and called out, "Is Hillel here? Is Hillel here?" Thereupon Hillel rose and went out to him, saying, "My son, what do you require?" "I have a question to ask," said he. "Ask, my son," Hillel prompted. Thereupon he asked, "Why are the heads of the Babylonians round?" "My son, you have asked a great question," replied he, "because they have no skillful midwives." So the one departed, tarried a while, returned and called out, "Is Hillel here? Is Hillel here?" So Hillel rode and went out to him, saying, "My son, what do you require?" "I have a question to ask," said he. "Ask, my son," he prompted. So then he asked, "Why are the Palmyreans bleared? The eyes of the Palmyreans bleared?" "My son, you have asked a great question," replied he, "because they live in sandy places." And so he departed, tarried a while, returned and called out, "Is Hillel here? Is Hillel here?" So Hillel rode, went out to him, saying, "My son, what do you require?" "I have a question to ask," said he. "Ask, my son," he prompted. And he asked, "Why are the feet of the Africans wide?" "My son, you have asked a great question," said he, "because they live in watery marshes." "I have many questions to ask," said the one, "but fear that you may become angry." Thereupon Hillel rose, sat before him and said, "Ask all the questions that you have to ask." "Are you the Hillel who is called the Nasi of Israel?" "Yes," he replied. "Well, if that is you," he retorted, "may there not be many like you in Israel." "Why, my son?" queried he. "Because I have lost 400 zuz through you," complained he. "Be careful of your moves," he answered. "Hillel is worth it, that you should lose 400 zuz, and yet another 400 zuz through him. Yet Hillel shall not lose his temper." So, what is happening in this story? One student wagers that he can make Hillel angry and loses these 400 zuz as he's not able to do this. And so it would be understandable that at some point Hillel would show anger, impatience, or lose his calm. However, no matter the nature and length of the provocation, Hillel is not only calm, he actually seems to be, he's gracious and he's engaged, and he even encourages the student to ask more questions. So consider for a moment, what middot or middot do you think Hillel exemplifies here? Well, we may certainly see patience, overcoming anger, and we may even see compassion. I also see equanimity, a calmness of soul. Equanimity is about an inner balance, an inner equilibrium that exists no matter the circumstances and vicissitudes of life. In his book, Everyday Holiness, Alan Marinis brings to us a lesson that he learned from Rabbi Yisrael Salanter on equanimity. And this helps us see what equanimity is and what it is not. Jeff, if you could bring forward the next slide, slide 3, that would be great. Wonderful. And so he puts Rabbi Salanter as having taught him that if you have come to a place in your life where all the waters are becalmed and the waves have been stilled, there is a very good chance that you're in a coma, or at least deeply asleep. It's not a good place to be. The first time I had read this in Alan's book, I was absolutely stunned. I had been trying to, in my life, all my life, just kind of put out all the fires, make everything calm, do everything that I could to just get everything to be calm and handled. If I could somehow get everything handled and get everything taken care of, that I would possibly find that calmness and finally find that peace and that, that which I was looking for. And then I come upon this. Wow. We often strive, we do. We strive to calm everything around us, or at least I do, I'll speak for me. We shut off the noise, quiet the surroundings, and minimize the problems and struggles that we have in life. But he teaches us here that that's not equanimity. That's something else. Instead, the Mussar teachers instruct us to cultivate a calmness of soul, a menuchat hanefesh. So let's turn to slide 4, Jeff. Thank you. In his work, Hamaspik Le'odeh Hashem, Guide to Serving God, Abraham ben Harambam teaches us calmness is praiseworthy when one uses reason to control and rule over the emotions and to channel them according to the guidance of the intellect and the viewpoint of the Torah. Calmness should not be a result of coldness, listlessness, or cowardice. I wonder sometimes when I was looking for, this peace or this calm or this, whatever it is I thought I was trying to get everything handled, was this, maybe it was even a cowardice, not facing everything, or maybe just at some point I just kind of gave up. It was just sort of listless. Sometimes even just kind of distancing, and that may be a type of coldness, that's not it. What we really want is this way of living out in the world, where we actually will encounter challenges and situations and circumstances, all of these things that we can't control. This is what we do encounter. That is part of life. Having equanimity doesn't mean that these go away. Rather, this is actually the environment in which we can cultivate equanimity. Indeed, the Mussar masters note that there's a number of emotions that one may control and rule over, including anger and envy, pride and fear. And these emotions are unlikely to arise in a completely serene environment. In Alan Bernis's book, Everyday Holiness, he uses the metaphor of the surfer. Many of us have probably heard this metaphor. He uses the metaphor of a surfer on an ocean, surfing on an ocean, to teach about equanimity. And using his metaphor, that the surfer must have developed an inner balance in order to stay centered on the surfboard and ride the waves that are swelling and crashing around the surfer. Without the waves, the surfer would not have had the opportunity to actually develop the ability to surf. I reflect back to the story about Hillel. I wonder, looking through this lens, if perhaps Hillel had seen the student knocking on his door as he was washing up in preparation for Shabbat as actually an opportunity to practice equanimity. Just a couple of weeks ago, I just want to share something that came up for me that really illustrated for me as I was looking at this, that I was having breakfast, getting ready for a very particularly busy day, and it was filled with, of course, work obligations, appointments, all of those things. And I gave my dog, Lily, her morning doggy bone. And she went out her doggy door as, well, she goes in and out countless times a day, but this particular mama, she takes her dog bone in her mouth and she walks out the doggy door and she drops it and she comes right back in. And as she kind of came in, she had this really funny look on her face. And she's looking at me as if like, Mom, do something. And so as I watched my dog, I'm looking at her because it was really strange that she should leave her bone outside and then come right back in without having eaten it. She loves her dog bone. And I noticed that she lifted up her right rear leg. And I realized she was in pain. And so I went over and I looked at it much more closely and realized that one of her toenails had split and was bleeding. It was bleeding on my floor. And so I put a temporary bandage on her and I whisked her off to the vet. And we ended up spending at least 2 hours at the emergency veterinary hospital. And folks, this is not something that I had planned on. I love my dog and would never have responded any differently, of course. But as I sat there in the vet's office while the vet worked on my dog, I realized that my equilibrium was off. I knew my dog would be fine, but I had a sense that there was something off kilter. So I looked. Of course, my day, my plans for my day were kind of shot. I wouldn't get those hours back, and I observed that it seemed at first when I was first looking at it as though I was a little bit angry. So I know that one of the antidotes for anger is the middot of humility, anava. And I recognized that I was actually not angry with the dog or even really at the situation. These things happen. And so I looked some more and I realized that I was actually anxious and afraid, and saw that what I was actually worried about was that I had no idea how I was going to get done what I had planned on that day. I was really worried. I actually was just thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get everything done? So what's an antidote to worry and fear? Well, I looked, and what came up for me was trust, bitachon, trust in Hashem. And suddenly I realized that there was absolutely no mistake that bitachon, the midah of trust, was coming up. I was trying to do everything all on my own, and frankly, I was exhausted. And I saw that it was the divine's way of reminding me that I'm not alone, that I can trust Hashem. And the recognition of this not only restored my equilibrium, but also opened up new paths of awareness and options. I could see things that I hadn't seen before. And you see, I still had work to do, but the stress and anxiety was lifted, and I could see other options that were now available to me. So, looking from the perspective of equilibrium, we have the opportunity to do the inner soul work by recognizing other middot that may be out of balance and return ourselves to equanimity. So I want to touch on the section of our Pirkei Avot in this first mission of chapter 6, that Torah gives one who studies Torah sovereignty, malchut. So we remember that Spot and Lat suggested that malchut may refer to freedom from all constraints, both physical and spiritual, that so often restrict our growth. And just as a sovereign does not fear their subjects, so too, the true Talmid Chacham is beyond fearing mortals. A quote from Duties of the Heart, the work of Bock ibn Pekuda, I think may shed some light on this or expand this some more. And he writes that one who trusts in God will not submit to another. He will not set his hopes on any person or put their trust in human beings. They will not be subservient to them in order to win their favor, nor will such a person flatter them. Such a person will not agree with them in what is not in the service of God, and their ways will not be frightening, and such a person will not be afraid to oppose them. And so what I think Ibn Bakuda is saying here is that one who trusts in Hashem, one who trusts in God, doesn't have to be worried about currying favor, flattering another, nor even really worrying about disagreeing with another person. We don't have to worry about what others think of us, positive or negative. When we trust in Hashem, we can act and be without fear. We can be ourselves. We can serve God. We can live our lives in the service of God, unencumbered by our worry and fear of others. So in this way, we may now see that equilibrium does indeed incorporate this sense of malchut. And we see that when we have inner balance, equilibrium, this middot hanefesh, we can gain access to freedom from constraints like fear and envy and anger, which when we're wrapped up in them, they restrict our growth. And so our lives can have greater freedom and choice, and our inner light can shine more fully. And here too, we can see erech ruach, this sense of patience, this sense of forbearance. We have this sense of having choice in our responses, of cultivating more than just a longer fuse. Way before we actually act out with anger, we have the opportunity to actually observe it arising with our inner watcher and examine it through a Mussar lens. See, we all know that life throws us curveballs, things happen, people say things that they may regret, and we also know that we have responses to all this, including our fears, thoughts, and worries. And if we look, we see that these pass through our minds constantly, actually, and they may even taunt us or even be really sly, and that we really take them seriously. We may even think we are them. But with equilibrium and inner balance, we can become aware of all of this going on. We can develop our inner watcher and distance our inner self as though we're observing and actually watching all of this going on. And from there, from this awareness, we have access to self-restraint and transformation. And so we can see now in the final verses of our Mishnah here, this first Mishnah of chapter 6, the secrets of Torah are revealed to them, and they become an ever-flowing fountain, a stream that never fails. They become modest and forbearing, forgiving of insults. Torah magnifies and elevates them above all things. I love the imagery here. It's an ever-flowing fountain, a stream that never fails. Both have a lovely sound. They're peaceful. Water, when in the form of ocean or flood, can be fearful and damaging. But here, the fountain and the stream, they're both water, and yet the water is expressed by both of these images as conveying a sense of calm, soothing, steady, reliable, and patient. And they render benefit to those who come to it and draw from it. So say anything that you want to the stream or the fountain, and it's not offended, nor does it get angry. Praise the water, flatter the water, it still flows in the same way from the fountain or stream. Either way, the water simply flows with a beautiful trickling sound. And here we have, the Torah magnifies and elevates them, those who study Torah above all things. As Reb Mel says, the Torah was given to us to make of us a mensch. And as Hillel says, now go and study. I wanted to also acknowledge that up on our screen here we have slide 5. I wanted to supply this as this path that Mussar offers in having a middot and having our daily reminder phrase and our evening journaling and the activities that we may do during the day, whether it be Kabbalot or reading and study. Wanted to present that to you for your own use. It's really derived from the work of the Mussar Institute and on the blogs and the website, and of course from Alan's book, Everyday Holiness. And wanted to conclude my presentation, I also wanted to just acknowledge a couple of more comments that came up. Ken Elman, my dear friend, he says these attributes remind him of the attributes of Hashem, indeed, so that the study of Torah makes us more like Hashem. And indeed, we do, that we should aspire to be holy. You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. And how do we be holy? We have the path of all of the words of God that come to us through Torah, whether we believe they are divinely spoken or divinely inspired. Here we have the Torah that gives us this path to holiness, to being holy, and to be as much like Hashem as we possibly can with all that we have going on. We also have Monique. Monique, bless your heart. It feels so good to see you this morning. Actually, I don't see you, by the way. I just see your notes here. And she writes, trusting in God, bitachon, also feels to me like becoming open-hearted. And absolutely, absolutely. And so now I want to open it up to any more comments, any more questions that you may have this morning. Okay. All right. And as those questions may be coming up, I also want to just acknowledge just Hashem and divine goodness that has been passed down to us through sources and inspiration, these divinely inspired writings that span centuries. From Torah to Mishnah to Gemara, Talmud to especially these writings of Pirkei Avot and the writings in our Mishnah to Ibn Hakuda and Duties of the Fort. All of these writings, Spotted Bets, Midrash Shmuel, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, and all of the great writers that we have to draw from, and also that none of Mussar wouldn't be happening in my life if it were not for the divine, if it were not for all of this work that's been transmitted to us through the work of Alan Morenis in his book Everyday Holiness and his other books as well, and through the work of the Mussar Institute. All of the amazing people who carry on the work and participate in the work of Mussar, all of you, and the work at the Mussar Institute, my teachers at the Academy for Jewish Religion in California, who teach Mussar and live Mussar, and all of my fellow students, and all those who study Mussar over all of the world. It is my prayer and my wish that more study Mussar. It's just a path to holiness, a path to goodness, and just God bless. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
And so that concludes my presentation. I'm seeing if there's any questions coming up.
We have a few more minutes, about 3 minutes.
Says, go and study.
If anybody has any questions, did you see the one also from Monique about groundedness? I think you saw that. Can menuchat nefesh be seen as groundedness? So. Anybody else have any other questions? Of course, this webinar is being recorded, and those of you who are on here will get a link to it. Those of you who are not on it will also get a link to it, and it will also be put on our YouTube channel.
Are we still on?
Yes. Yes.
I'm not sure where Jeff is. I think he's supposed to take over from here.
You can't hear me?
No, there we are.
Can you hear me? Are you not able to hear me?
Jeff, I don't hear you.
Well, that's strange. Can you hear me now?
Okay, I see a question that's come up. Can Menuchat HaNefesh be seen as groundedness? Yes, and I would say so, and I would say it's this sense, as I said, of inner balance, this sense that your truest self is not shaken, that in being of service to Hashem, that you really have this sense of who you are and what you're striving for, and have this sense of inner balance. And so, yes, I would say so. And then couldn't make out what year chapter 6 was added. Caroline, I don't exactly know. I know it was, of course, after the completion of Pirkei Avot, but it's also before the time of Rashi. So somewhere in the centuries in there that it was developed. I'm sure it's a little away. So I just answer. I didn't answer that specifically. Okay. Any other questions?
Can you hear me now, Lisa?
All right, Greg comments, really like the idea of the inner watcher, would love to hear more how to remember to be the watcher, especially when feeling out of balance. Okay, that was there. Okay, the developing inner watcher is really this zehirut, this inner awareness. It's I think it's actually a longer discussion than what we had, and I know we're about to complete. But it's this idea of watching one's thoughts. If we just take a moment and we're just quiet for a moment, you can actually watch whatever thoughts that we have go right on through. And it's actually stepping back and watching those. And any time that we may feel off kilter a little bit may be an indication that we really want to step back and watch those thoughts. And the more that we do it, the more we can exercise that practice of actually being that inner, or having that inner watcher, and developing that more and more. Okay. And Monique adds, yes, and with that awareness means we can stand back outside the thoughts and not be sucked in or consumed by them. Precisely, absolutely, absolutely. Very good. Not a question, but I just added it anyway, Monique. Thank you. Beautiful. All right.
Okay, so if that's it, I think the problem is Lisa turned down her speakers.
And Jeff, are you on? I don't hear you. Oh, that's me, yes. I turned my sound down and had no idea I did.
Right. There you go.
Thank you.
That was it. So it took me a minute to remember what we had done. So your speakers were down. So anyway, I think that's it. I think we've answered all the questions. And of course, you can submit questions later, I'm sure. You can send them to me if you want, and I'll forward them. But I'd like to thank you, Rabbi, this morning for being with us. And the time went by so fast. You know, an hour is not much time, and this really went by fast. So that's a good thing, because it was very engaging. So I'd like to thank everybody who was on the webinar as well. Thank you very much for being with us this whole season. As I said, this will be on YouTube, and actually all of this whole series is part of a playlist on our YouTube channel. So you can rewatch all of them there in order from the very beginning if you missed any. So I'd like to thank everybody, wishing everybody a very nice Sunday, and take care. Thank you.